This is the number one problem I see with mindset and spirituality coaches who have something great to share, but it just doesn't land with their audiences. And in this following clip, I'm going to show you exactly what the problem is and the solution to it. This is from the first official recording session with Sam, as I am ghostwriting his book. And you'll see us talk about his initial outline, my response to it, and ultimately how we took that lesson into chapter one. Enjoy. Um, I wanted to throw in a quick little bit of teaching here before we get into the meat of it, because this is like such an important concept, and this will actually, I want you to have this running in the back of your mind as we go forward, because this will help you better identify like what I need
Okay.
um, as far as getting the book done. So this is, let me get it pulled up again here. Let me save it in another window. I did not, just fine. So you ever heard of a show called Rick and Morty?
Yes.
Okay.
I,
You've
I never
watched it?
watched it. I never watched it, but I've heard of it. Yeah.
Okay. What about Community? Do you know that show?
That one I never heard of.
Okay. Same guy. But basically, this is the writer behind Rick and Morty, who also wrote Community, and those are probably his two most famous works. But he's done a huge amount of work in the industry. He is his name's Dan Harmon, and he teaches this. This is like his writer's room is completely run on this idea, and it's a
Okay.
kind of simplified version of, if you've heard of like Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey, which I'm sure you have. This
Yes.
actually I think is a much more flexible version of it. And just to quickly run through it, you have the story starts like right here on number one. I don't know how you can see it on your screen because if you're
Yeah,
on
I see it.
mobile.
Yep.
You can? Okay, cool. So first is establishing the protagonist, and I always like to think of this as like life before, right? Like
Mm,
there's gonna be some big dramatic moment that kicks off the story, but everything before that we need to very quickly summarize as like here's what life was like before, right? Like we need some glimpse of what it was before the big change happened. The
mm,
need, which is kind of part of that establishment moment, depending on the story, they can kind of mix together. But this is like, whatever the protagonist is living with, like they need something, right? There's something missing or there's something wrong they're trying to get away from. And again, we want to establish that very clearly up front. Crossing the threshold is that big dramatic moment where we're out of this normal life, right? Like however things have been going, they can't go like that anymore. And that's why too, that kind of inner circle here, this is a part I really love that he makes super clear, is the idea of the first half being order and the second half being chaos.
mm.
So like every single story, and he even like there's some article somewhere where he breaks down like even something as simple as I was driving along the road and my tire popped and I had to get out in the middle of the night to change my tire. That's still a version of this same cycle, right? Because you're going from life before, driving down the road, everything's normal. Boom, something goes wrong. You have a popped tire. Crossing the threshold is getting out of the car to go and change the tire, right? You're now out of the
Mm,
car, out of safety. You're in the dark night. Anything could happen, right?
mm-hmm.
You go through the process of the chaos of having to fix the problem, and then you return back to the world of order once your tire is fixed and you're back in the car driving home. So that's how basic this is, right? That's how basic this can be. But obviously, there's way, way more you can do with that formula. And so then you go through the search. This is the road of trials, which kind of you already have in the way you have it written in your notes, right? You mentioned like being lost for a while, bumping into those ladies who gave you the pamphlet about Samuel,
Yeah.
which in a sense that's kind of moving into like the meeting the goddess, which like doesn't have to literally be a goddess, right? But basically meeting some sort of source of wisdom in the middle of your chaos. That's like, hey, here's I'm going to show you the thing you actually need, right? Taking it is where the reason why this is take/pay the price is that in any good story, there has to be something sacrificed for something gained, right?
Mm,
And this is where, and really like, again, especially to go back to like the Joseph Campbell framework, this is where the hero actually gives up. It's not just that they're gaining the thing they need, it's that they're giving up everything that was holding them back, right? Like
mm,
they could be giving up their pride, giving up their laziness, right? Giving up some aspect of themselves that doesn't let them rise to the hero they should be, which is part of what was missing in the life before, right? They were still letting that thing control them. The return journey, that's when you bring it home. And then finally, number eight is master of both worlds. This is where the hero has fully taken in the lesson and transformed. Um, but the reason why it's the master of both worlds is that there's that final translation step where it's like, all right, I've gone through the world of chaos to learn this big lesson, and now I've actually brought it back and I've so internalized it, I can explain it to people even in the normal world. Even in the world
mm,
of order, I can deliver this and have it make sense. Um, which you think about like when you've gone to those depths, right? A lot of times, like you can tell someone's still on the return journey because you ask them like, oh, what did you learn from that? And you just get this like manic novel out of their mouths. So it's like, sounds great for you, man, but I can't make a lick of sense out of that, right? That's someone who's still on the return journey. They haven't fully
Yeah, yeah.
processed it and brought it back to the normal world. So like I said, this is literally when I think of like a really fantastic nonfiction book, especially something like this, every single chapter will go through some version of this.
Mm.
It'll look different, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be like particularly long or complicated, but it's always going to have some version of these beats, right? And that's what I'm looking for in the story part of the chapter. And the other thing too is that when I get that, like, this is why I'm here, right? Like,
Go
you
ahead, break it down, break it down.
you're kind of jumping from you're trying to take people from 1 directly to 8, right? In a lot of your notes. What they need is to go through is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? And again, that's where the having the storytelling is so important. Because literally that's this, right? That's how they process things.
Yeah.
So let me go ahead and pull up those notes real quick and give you a little bit. Oh, hang on, I don't want to do that. Do that. Actually,
Yeah, so if you can explain, I mean, I'm open to what it is that you're gonna share now, but if you can explain from what I've provided, like you was talking about chapter 1, like what did I miss on that circle?
Yeah, so here you go. So we have the Great Awakening, the current global shift, burning for more. So actually, this is part of what I meant about chapter 1 being the story about your mom. I mean,
Yeah.
we do have it here.
Yeah, so what I did up there, up on top, where it says that's just like I guess the framework for the chapter, right? But the actual chapter is right here where it says chapter 1, the Great Awakening, and
Right.
that's when I started, started with that story.
Yeah, and I think part of what I was bumping up against here, even just on the summary level, is that this is a lot for one chapter. If anything, talking about like kind of the global perspective, I think works better as an introduction. And then we talk about, and that can be kind of where you lay out like, here's where we're going, right? Kind of the high level roadmap. But then chapter 1 is basically what you have here. Because the other thing about this is like I think we actually have a few different stories within the one story here. And there's a way to structure this that's more like starting with like it's not like you learned one thing from what happened with your mom, right?
Not at all. So much, man, because it was the foundation to a lot. It questioned existence for me. Like, it questioned God. It questioned everything. What happens? Why it happens? Where do like everything was shaken up for me, right? So it it definitely wasn't a one trick pony. And I'm gonna be honest, it's still something that unravels to this day, especially
Yeah.
when I'm in meditation and I'm connecting with the essence of my mother and how it connects to the essence of what I believe to be the divine mother. It's not my mother in particular, but the divine mother. And so that to me was an introduction to the divine mother for me. And so that's something I didn't write about here. This is more like a summary of like what I felt was a good connection piece, right?
Right.
But yeah, definitely in many different levels, man. I'm talking divine mother, the feminine within myself, like the feminine within the world, everything. It really unraveled a lot on that level. But then also it opened up my mind to many different questions that then opened up my mind to multiple, well, unlimited perceptions.
Right. So then,
But the idea on here was to just use it as a story to introduce the biggest, I guess, the biggest thing of awakening for self for me was that.
right.
Right. Like that's why I use that piece. But is it more than that? Oh yeah. Way more than that.
Yeah, and that's why like because honestly that was kind of the thing I kept on coming back to even with these other chapters is that it's like especially when we get down to the tools and the science here, most of these chapters actually feel like multiple chapters to me, right? Like uh I like reframing exercises. I would say so. It's funny actually because you kind of landed in a similar place. It's just I would narrow it down a bit per chapter. But my ideal structure, I think I might have told you about this, but it's like story, lesson, application in that order. You kind of have them reversed here in your notes, but essentially it's like I'm going to tell you the story to kind of open you up emotionally and take you through that story wheel like we talked about.
You want to know? Sorry to interrupt, but you want to know
Yeah.
what's so funny? Because that framework, I
Yep.
used it because I do remember you telling me. But you're saying that I have it there backwards, and I'm not surprised because I do have like I'm a lot better now, but dyslexia, right? Like writing shit backwards, seeing shit backwards, hearing it, and then doing it backwards. So it makes sense that I did it backwards.
Well, and you're already at step 8, right? Like this is a very natural thing for a coach to do because if you're already at step 8 and step 8 is like blindingly obvious to you, of course you're just going to start there, right? The problem is that other people aren't there yet. Like, and this is a little bit of question of audience, but I think actually like no matter what, because I almost thought about like opening this call by asking like who's the audience for this, which I know we've already talked about. But either way, like, so let's take two very different audience examples. So let's say we're talking to like literally 2007 Sam, someone who is like in crisis, doesn't have a ton of resources yet, right? Like is just like, oh God, the world's falling apart, versus someone who's like, already an entrepreneur and already had some success, but feels like they're hitting a ceiling, right? Very different audiences. But in both
Yes.
cases, like when we get into like stuff like, I know I'm going a bit past chapter 1 here, but just for sake of argument, getting into stuff like the like neuroplasticity and like some of the like the more advanced like science and metaphysics behind it, they don't really care about that yet. What they want it to know is like, what do I do, right? How can I apply this? And like even beyond just like, here's how the universe works. It's like, what is the lesson I need to learn right now, right? How
Mhm.
do I make this pain go away? How do I, get past this obstacle? Which again goes back to the story wheel, right? Um, and that's the thing that I think will be the very fruitful challenge of this whole process is like, how do we take all these like very big topics that you've learned and for each chapter drill them down into like really one lesson at a time, right? Like one thing by the end of this chapter you'll very clearly understand and be able to apply.
Mm.
And trust that like, because honestly, and this goes all the way back to that first conversation we had, like there are things in here I'm like, oh, that sounds like book 2 or 3. I don't know if that even needs to come up in book 1, right?
Mm.
Like I'd rather get people in motion and get them into like starting to experience the change that you can deliver before we kind of overwhelm them with the more advanced stuff. Does that make sense?
Mm. Yeah, as I was typing certain things yesterday, especially when I was going into the mirroring of reality, and how's everything's your teacher, and you start to see and co-create with creation. I'm like, this is pretty heavy shit, man.
It's big, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So I'm like, damn, like how can I really was thinking about it last night, after I sent it to you because I had touched up like the third chapter. And I'm like, damn, bro, like this is heavy shit. How can I simplify this so that people can understand what I'm saying, like on a simple level of like self-reflection versus like looking at it like, oh, I'm creating with creation type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And again, that's where, pardon me for being a broken record, but that's where story comes in, right? Because
yeah.
like so what I really wanted to do today is let's start with the story of your mom. And I know you already wrote a fair amount of it out here, but I'd actually like you to just tell me the story. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that clip, and stay tuned on the same channel, same playlist for more teaching moments and updates from the ghostwriting journey with Sam. See you around.